do we know the signs of the image to the beast and the mark of the beast? So this is basically class number 8, and so even though we're only on week number 6, so over the next 2 classes, I plan on discussing the image of the beast, the false prophet, and the mark of the beast. Um, we will determine what the prophecies describe about the world at the end of time, and we'll review recent current events, people, and trends to see if the signs of the times are apparent in the world today. So, people say, is the United States mentioned in Daniel or Revelation? Absolutely yes. The U.S. is the second beast mentioned in Revelation 11 through 18. And so, if this shouldn't come as a surprise to you in this class, because I mentioned that, I said that last week, but the U.S. is going to make an image to the beast. It's going to enforce the mark of the beast. It's going to enforce a no buy, no sell system, and it's going to magnify and export the false prophet of apostate evangelicalism around the world. Our country, the United States, is the only empire around today that can pull that off. And I showed in the last class, last week, that the relationships between the United States and Rome, going way back to the founding of our country, the our structures, our laws, the fact that every president um, after um, Roosevelt went to Rome to kiss the ring of the Pope at that time. We're that all of those are evidence, and we're going to see more as we move on. So, just very quickly, what are the things that the second beast needs to do to accomplish to fulfill the prophecy? The second beast is going to exercise all the authority of the first beast. What's really important, the first beast is the time of papal dominion. The Pope had absolute authority over all things civil. He literally promoted kings and removed kings, and all things religious. He literally made his own laws and enforced them, and had his people pursue and torture people who wouldn't follow the laws he made up. And the U.S. is now positioned as a global influencer supporting religious and political authority. The deadly wound needs to be healed. There's going to be a restoration of influence of the first beast, and we are going to normalize and promote the revived religious authority of the papacy. We're going to perform great signs. Miracles to authenticate the deception are going to happen. There is already a rise of signs and wonders and revivalism. There's going to be more. Very likely, fire from heaven. And those are going to be used to convince the world that that the beast really is speaking for God. We're going to deceive the world to make an image of the beast. We're going to replicate the religio-political model, and we're already moving toward religious legislation and moral enforcement. Many people are happy. Whoa, we put the Ten Commandments in the schools. We want to make religious laws. No, you don't. Those religious laws are going to be used against you just like they were used against the people of God during the papacy of the Fifth Kingdom. The image is going to cause people who refuse to be killed. So persuasion is going to escalate to coercion. This is the historical pattern. The papacy of the Middle Ages between 530, I keep saying these dates, 538 and 1798, is not religiously and politically distinct from modern Islamic states. In the modern Islamic states, where the head religious person makes the rules and decides what laws are to be enforced and who is to be in office, that is what they had, and that's what religious repression will look like under the United States. Obviously, not with Islamic laws, but supporting supposedly Christian laws. And no one will be able to buy or sell unless they have the mark. Sunday blue laws are going to be the first way this comes up, restricting buying and selling on religious grounds. Okay, what is the image to the beast? The image of the beast is the merger of religious power and civil power, and I'm calling that religio-political power, as demonstrated by the Roman Catholic papal system for the 1260 years. The papal system had absolute power to enforce its religious dictates. It ran inquisitions from 1231 into the 1900s. It's shocking to realize that inquisitions were going on up until the 1800s, but Wikipedia will tell you that. You can go to Grok or ChatGPT, and they will show you what they're called, how they're dated. But though that papal system enforced death penalties, tortures, confiscation of property, forced conversion of Jews, Muslims, Protestants, the Cathars, the Waldenses, and others. It will force, so the image of the beast forces worship in Revelation 13:12, and he exerciseth, that's the second beast, all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and all that dwell therein to worship the first beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. And he, the land beast, had the power to give life to the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many who don't worship the image of the beast to be killed. And he caused this is all the first beast. This is what the United States is going to eventually do. Going to cause all, both great and small, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads. And Revelation 13 is telling us that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So speaking in this context is making religious laws. That's when a country speaks. Causing is enforcing. So the United States, just like Rome before it, speaks to make laws, religious laws, and causes, it enforces those laws with civil punishments, death, and the no buy, no sell decree. But let's take a look. Has something like this occurred through history? Has something like an image to the beast been enforced to force God's people to disobey God? Satan uses the systems of this world against God's people. Satan is not going to come down and do that. He's going to use wicked people, people actually who think they're doing service to God in this case. Jesus warned us, people will kill you thinking they are serving me, and that's because they never knew me. Babylon sought to kill Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego for not bowing down to the golden image in Daniel 3. Media Persia sought to kill Daniel because he prayed to God against the king's commands in Daniel 6. Greece, through Antiochus, sought to conform God's people to the pagan ways of Greece and then sought to kill them, described in the Maccabees. That's not described in the scriptures, but it is described historically in the Maccabees. Pagan Rome worked through Herod to try to kill Jesus, and then through Nero and the other emperors to kill and torture God's people. Papal Rome, the sea beast of the first 10 verses of Revelation 13, tortured and killed God's people who kept the commandments, who translated the Bible. This included the reformers. And the land beast, the United States, will reestablish the religio-political power of the image of the beast to torture and kill God's people who will not take the mark of the beast. Notice, as you move down the metal man and you move down through the beasts that come out of the sea, we have that same progression. We have each of the beasts' kingdoms: Babylon, Media Persia, Greece, pagan Rome, papal Rome, and finally the United States as the sixth beast. It will reestablish this power. So what is the worship of the image of the beast? So the image of the beast, I'm saying here, now everybody, we need to recognize that this is symbolic language. Everybody wants to get literal. They want to see a talking robot. They want to see AI generated image. The image of the beast, the image of the beast is referring to the political power, the religio political system of the papacy. The second beast of Revelation 13 will reinstate that religio-political power like the papacy of the 1260 years. So to worship the image of the beast is to do what the religio-political power requires. I think I was right here. So the religio-political image of the beast is the original Christian nationalism. We need to be concerned about the term Christian nationalism and the people who want to uh, make the United States a Christian nation. We'll talk more about that next week. But when a nation combines church authority with civil enforcement power, it has merged the church and the state, and it has created an image to the beast. The events of the past were given for our instruction and warning. So we are told by Paul, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, we might have hope. We should have hope. These bad things that are coming, we are to have hope. God will not put us through the plagues just like he did not put the children of Israel through the plagues in Egypt. And in 1 Corinthians 10, Paul says, now all these things happened unto them for ensamples, and they were written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. The stories I use quote in the Old Testament, the Tanakh, are given as prophecies of what is to come and an assurance of how God will deliver his people. I've already referred to these examples, but in Daniel 3, the religio-political power, Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian, instituted forced worship of the golden idol when the music sounds. Nebuchadnezzar was uh, angry when he was told by Daniel that his head of gold would pass on. So he said, forget you, I'm going to build a whole statue of gold and make everybody bow down and worship me. But we know Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't do it. They threw and they spoke to the king and they said, if it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand. But if not, be it known to thee, king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. If I was one of those fiery preachers, I would be shouting that, jumping up and down, and getting teary-eyed. That is, that is the Spirit of the Lord speaking through them, working through them, and we will need to have that same Spirit. That's the faith of Jesus. We will need to have that same Spirit when the time comes for us to stand up against persecution. But they didn't listen. They didn't worship him, and they were thrown into the fiery furnace. And what did Nebuchadnezzar say? Look, I see four men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. Uh, Brothers and sisters, even if we're not delivered like that, the Lord will deliver us nonetheless. Also in Daniel 6, and in Daniel 6, we also have the religio-political power coming up against Daniel. Now, in this case, they're telling him he can't worship the way he wants to worship. And it's interesting. In the previous example in Daniel 3, they said, you must worship this way. In this one, they're saying you can't worship the way you want to worship. And in this case, Darius the Mede is dictating that they couldn't worship. And when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, his windows being open in his chamber toward Jerusalem. He knelt upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as he did before time. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication. Daniel didn't hide the fact that he was being loyal. We are to have the faith of Jesus, to not hide the fact, but to be willing to go through the fire, to be willing to throw into the lions. But Darius was heartbroken, but because his law couldn't be broken, he threw Daniel into the lion's den. And they did that because the enemies of God decided to, they knew that there was nothing they could get against Daniel, but they had to pick a law that was against his God. At the end of time, we will be tested that way. We will be forced to choose keeping the law of God versus keeping the law of the state. And so God sent his angel and hath shut the lions' mouths that they did not hurt him. These Bible stories, they're not stories. They are guideposts, they are prophecies. We need to see them as prophecies to what the image of the beast will be requiring at the end of time. So let's take a look at things. I've pointed this out rather obliquely, but we can look at this now as the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is included to prevent religio-political power. The First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. That's the first half of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. That means the government cannot legally make laws enforcing someone to follow a dictated religion. This is called by lawyers the Establishment Clause. Daniel 3 is an example of a religio-political power establishing a religion. We will see this in our time if we remain alive by the grace of God. And the second part is, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The governor cannot make laws dictating that one cannot worship as they please. Religion is, and this is called the free exercise clause. Daniel 9 is example of a religio power restricting free exercise of religion. So, in order for the United States to do this, they will have to bypass the U.S. Constitution to allow the formation of a religio-political power. Um, so what I would say, I'm gonna go through this a little bit. This is where we need to open our eyes and see what's going on around us. During the last 60 years at least, the leaders of both political parties have pushed our country to increase the power of the presidency and weaken the power of the legislature. That's not just a Republican thing, it's not just a Democrat thing. Every president has pushed to increase the power of the presidency. And the US government has been sliding down the slippery slope of increasing authoritarianism. This isn't just a Republican thing or just a Democrat thing. Authoritarianism is coming upon us. And the Supreme Court, I don't know how much each of you follows news and follows what's going on with our rights, but the Supreme Court is slowly eroding the scope and protection of our constitutional rights, such as freedom of speech. That's also written in the First Amendment. We didn't read that part, but if I don't want to get political here, but we can look back a few years and the government was dictating to private companies what they could limit and what they could or what they should and must limit and who they should shut up and who they should promote. That was a clear breaking of the First Amendment protections. The right to keep and bear arms. Our government, we hear rumors about certain presidents and governors supporting the Second Amendment, but every time it comes down to a vote in our national legislature and in state legislatures, it's constantly putting limits on that. Bodily privacy and bodily integrity of the Fourth Amendment. I'm sure everyone remembers that people in our country were forced to take certain medicines, and if they didn't, they lost their jobs. Now, many of them got their jobs back after being impoverished and bankrupted because it was interpreted by the courts finally as breaking the Fourth Amendment, and employers didn't have the right to do that. But that took many years to be corrected. And unreasonable searches and seizures. People are having their bank accounts seized. I hope you all remember the story back to the Canadian truckers a couple of years ago, but they were being truckers in Canada were being forced to have the forced medical treatment, and they said they wouldn't do it, and they drove their trucks into Quebec, the capital of Canada, honked their horns. They blocked traffic, and their bank accounts were seized. People and famously the gym owner in New Jersey, who kept his gym open, um, had it was faced long, hard legal battles. His power was turned off, his water was turned off. He had over $200,000 in fines and legal fees. They seized the money out of his bank accounts, literally took it. For the truckers in Canada, Americans and Canadians and people around the world who wanted to support them sent them money by Venmo, by PayPal, and by that app where you GoFundMe. And the people who donate that money never got to the truckers, and the people who put money into those accounts had their bank accounts locked down and in some cases seized. This is unreasonable. It's a violation of the Fifth and 14th Amendments. And the fact that American banks participated in this mean they were going against our Constitution. What I'm telling you is we as a country are already sliding down. That was in a previous administration. I'm not picking on one administration or another. This is happening because the United States has a role to fulfill in prophecy. Okay, uh, I've just covered the part of the teaching covering the image of the beast.